Subject: Microeconomics. Topic: Ahead of the bell, U.S. unemployment benefits. What is the impact on unemployment in the United States according to the article Ahead of the Bell, U.S. Unemployment Benefits? Thesis Statements: the number of people seeking unemployment in the United States is increasing as there are few job openings, and reduced consumption in the economy. Explanation: in the article, Ahead of the Bell, U.S. Unemployment Benefits, it is described that the number of individuals who have applied for the unemployment benefits has increased, and the economists have estimated that it will increase further. However, the number of people looking for the unemployment benefits was lower before the recession, but after the recession it has increased. The unemployment rate was lower in June 2007, as employers have added the job opportunities for people. The unemployment rate, however, fell to about 6.1% in the year 2008. In previous 7 years, the job openings were high, and several people even quitted their jobs, as they were optimistic about the economic conditions, and were confident of getting a better opportunity. But now there are fewer jobs, wages are lower, inflation is high, low consumer spending and poor economic growth. Considering growth as a goal, the economy that is providing more job opportunities with higher incomes and wages will be able to provide higher living standards to the citizens. Such type of economy will be better able to meet the need and wants of the individuals and solve the socio-economic problems. Rising wages, expansion of the output, however, provide richer chances to the families and individuals to improve their standard of living. But, in the United States, the wages are low, and the job openings have declined, which paved the way to the decline in the living standards of people. Further, the economy of the United States is facing cost-push inflation. It is because the employment opportunities have declined in the economy, and the cost or the prices of products have risen. The wages have declined to such an extent that they are not sufficient to cope with the inflation that is constantly increasing. Considering the redistribution effects of inflation, the inflation is affecting the purchasing power of the individuals. Since the nominal level of income is not increasing to the same level of the rise in inflation, so the real income of people is getting affected. Moreover, the consumption schedule is an indicative of the fact that with the increase in the disposable income people will spend more or consume more. So, if there are more jobs in the economy, the paychecks will increase, which will ultimately increase the spending of the consumers and the economic growth. But, in the U.S. economy the consumption is declining because wages of people are less. However, in this type of economy where unemployment is high, consumption and wages are low, the real balances effect is also evident, which indicates that with the change in the price level, real balances effect is produced, in a way, and that the higher level of price decreases the purchasing power or the real value of the accumulated savings and balances of the public. The public is, however, poor in the real terms, and it will pave the way to reduction of the spending. Furthermore, the aggregate demand will change in the economy. This is due to the poor economic conditions where there is high unemployment. There is a change in the consumer spending, they spend less. There is a change in the consumer expectations as they will lose their confidence on the economy, and there is a change in the consumer wealth, so the aggregate demand of the economy will decline as a whole. Conclusion: in the United States the number of people claiming for the unemployment benefits has increased, because the job openings are not sufficient enough in the economy. This condition occurred after the recession. Before the recession the economic conditions were satisfactory as there were remarkable job opportunities at that time. Moreover, if growth is considered as a goal, then increased wages will improve the living standards of the individuals. The economy of the United States is facing cost-push inflation because unemployment and prices both are high in the economy. Since their inflation is increasing more than the wages, so there is a redistribution effect of inflation, which is reducing real income of individuals. The consumption schedule is an indicative of the fact that with the increase in disposable income, the consumption of individuals increases. The real balance effect is an indicative of the fact that increased price level reduces the purchasing power of the individuals, which will decrease the real value of the savings of people. In this type of economy, where high unemployment, lower wages, and increased inflation are evident, the aggregate demand declines, and ultimately the economic growth decreases. The World Cup's boost to the Brazilian economy will be small, and short-term thesis statement spending on some events such as on World Cup will boost the economy for short-term period, while in the long run it will be dangerous for the country. Explanation in the article: the World Cup's boost to the Brazilian economy will be small and short-term. Miles Udland has described that it is believed that the spending on the international events will help in boosting the economy, but as a matter of fact spending on such event will be advantageous for short-term growth of the economy, and in the long run, the economy has to suffer as it will not be able to make up the amount that was spent. The author has taken example of Brazilian economy, and pointed out towards the fact that it is expected that spending on the World Cup will be beneficial for the Brazilian economy, in a way, that it will help the country to decrease its budget deficit. The Brazilian Tourism Institute has estimated that the tourists, domestic travelers, and the foreign travels will spend a lot of money in such events that will be helpful in reducing the current account deficit. But, according to the author, this spending is increasing inflation in the country, and raising protests. The author indicates that the long-term gains in such events are nothing but just an exaggeration that they will generate enough revenue for the country. Considering the financial transactions of the economy, which comprise of the public transfer payments, private transfer payments, and stock market transactions, however, determine the performance of the economy. The public transfer payments are those that are made directly by the government to the household. Such payments include welfare payments, and security payments, etc. The private transfer payments comprise of private payments such as money given by parents to their children on any occasion such as Christmas. Finally, the stock market transactions consist of the buying and selling of the bonds and stocks. From these transactions, it is evident that the spending on the international events is not an indicator to measure the economic performance and financial transaction of any country, as such spending is not a part of public transfer payments, private transfer payments, and stock market transactions, which are main indicators measuring the financial transactions in the economy of the country. The automatic and built-in stabilizers have illustrated the economic importance that the spending should be when there is inflation in the economy, and in case of slump in the economy, the spending should be increased. Taking the case of the Brazilian economy, where the more and more is being spent on the World Cup, in pursuit of achieving economic growth, which is paving the way to the creation of inflation in the country, and consumers have to pay a higher price in order to buy the product. The Brazilian economy is not using standardized budgets in order to adjust the budget deficit, instead it is focusing on the increased spending. The standardized budgets will help to adjust the budget deficit as well as surpluses in order to eliminate the automatic tax changes, and help in the long-run growth of the economy. It also provides the opportunity to measure the actual expenditures of the government with that the tax revenue, and helps the government to abstain from spending on the events that promote short-term growth of the economy, and produce devastating results in the long run. Conclusion: the Brazilian economy is spending on the events such as World Cup with a belief that such events will help in promoting the growth of the economy. But, as a matter of fact, such events can just be good in the short run, while in the long run they create many difficulties for the economy as it becomes difficult for the economy to make the spent money again. Such types of spending are not the part of the public transfer payments, private transfer payments, and stock market transactions, which measure the financial transaction in the economy, so such spending are not meant for the economic growth and better economic performance. The automatic and built-in stabilizers show that the spending should be decreased in case of inflation, but Brazil is spending more and more, which is further increasing inflation, paving the way to the protests in the entire country. The Brazilian economy is considering the short-term economic incentives by spending more, and is not using the standardized budgets that are helpful for curing the budget deficits, and preventing the government from spending on the events that promote short-term growth and damage the economy in the long term. Euro crisis Myers continent in longest slump since war. Thesis statement: recession in the Eurozone has decreased the production of the goods and services, GDP, increased debt burdens, and the region is still unable to recover from the harmful recessionary effects. Explanation in the article: Euro crisis Myers continent in longest slump since war. Marcus Walker and Brain Blackstone has described about the recession has badly affected the Eurozone, and the estimated recovery is still not achieved in the region due to the severe effects of the recessions. Recession has paved the way to the debt crisis in the Eurozone, which has produced slump in the entire economy of Europe with no signs of recovery. Furthermore, continuous austerity measures that are adopted by the government and incapability of banks to advance loans have further aggravated the situation. The weak performance of the economy is challenging the official surveys, such as the surveys and estimates from the European Central Bank. Moreover, the authors have described that the GDP and the production of goods have declined in the Eurozone. The economies of the Eurozone are constantly suffering from the ill effects of recession, and this phase of depression is decreasing the growth of the core economies, such as Germany is hardly growing, and France is undergoing steady contractions. Further, the recession has led to debt burden, social damage, and political paralysis. Even the fiscal austerity measures remained unsuccessful in regaining the confidence and the trust of the customers as well as companies. In France, the multinationals are reluctant to make an investment as they are considering that the country is hostile to the business. The European Central Bank has adopted some actions such as lower interest rate, pledging, and abundance of liquidity for banks that have prevented the collapse of the government bonds in the Eurozone. The bond and the stock market if the Eurozone is not presenting positive response for jobs and business investment. In this regard, it is possible that in order to cope with the recession, the government has adopted the expansionary fiscal policy, for increasing the government spending and reducing the taxes, which have led to the creation of the budget deficit in the entire region. Considering the Growth Competitiveness Index that comprises of several factors, such as innovativeness, effective use of the technology, and investment, etc., as indicated in the article that the rapid growth and higher inflation in Germany will, however, make it easy for the Italy, France, and Spain to achieve their competitiveness again relative to the Northern Europe, because more investments will make these countries strong, and improve their economic conditions, hence increasing their Growth Competitive Index. Furthermore, since the banks in Eurozone are unable to extend the loans, so this is decreasing the money supply in the economy. The economic activities are affected are the supply of money is not sufficient in the economy. Additionally, taking into consideration debt and GDP, the economy having more productive capacity and wealth is able to carry more debt as compared to the economy that is having low productive ability. In the case of Eurozone, the recession has decreased the GDP of the region. In order to fulfill the needs of the regions, debt is taken, since the economy is still unable to gain its previous production capacity, so this has increased the debt burden of the entire region. Conclusion: in a nutshell, the Eurozone is still facing many crises that are the result of the recession. This is because the recessionary effects were so severe that the region is still unable to recover from those devastating effects. The core economies such as France and Germany are also affected badly. The growth, GDP, and the production capacity of the region have decreased, and budget deficit has increased. The investors are not making their investment in France, as they are not confident about the economic growth of French economy, and Germany is making slow growth. The stock and the bond market of Eurozone are not supportive of the jobs and business investment. There are possibilities that the region might have used expansionary fiscal policy in order to increase the government spending that have led to the budget deficit. Because of the higher inflation and rapid growth in Germany, the Growth Competitiveness Index of Italy, France, and Spain will increase. The banks are not advancing loans in Eurozone, which has reduced money supply in the economy. Since the GDP of Eurozone is lower, so it is difficult for it to manage the debt burden, which is further worsening the condition of the whole region, as still there are recessionary effects evident in the Eurozone. America's baby bust thesis statement: it is considered that declining fertility rate in the United States is the major reason of several problems in the country, but as a matter of fact the declining fertility is solution to many economic problems in the country. Explanation: in the article, America's Baby Bust, Jonathan V. Last has explained that most of the problems are arising in the economy due to decrease in the fertility rate. America is facing demographic cliff, and all this is because of the declining rate of fertility. The author has also described one-child policy in China, and if any woman tries to have another baby she is subject to the forced abortions and fines. The author explained that because of the lower fertility rate, the population of old people in the country is increasing, labor force is decreasing, innovation is declining, spending on healthcare is increasing, and the total factor productivity, which is a good measure of the economic dynamism, is decreasing. The author has provided examples of Japan and Mexico, in which the fertility rate declined, that has paved the way to the decline of the economic growth. The author is of the view that the government should play its role in order to increase the fertility rate, since it cannot convince the people to have children when they do not want to have, but the government can help them in having children if they desire, by providing social security that will be helpful for them in raising their children. The author has also claimed that the higher education is also a major factor that is playing its role in reducing the fertility rate. Refutation of the argument that the decreasing rate of fertility is the main cause of problems in the economy is refutable in a way that, considering the accounting of growth, which is indicative of the fact that the growth of the economy depends on the increase in the quantity of the labor, and an increase in the productivity of labor, which in turn depend upon the advancements in technology, quantity of capital, education and training, improved allocation of sources, and economies of scale. All these are possible if the fertility rate is low, because if the population of the country is low, there will be less burden on the economic resources, more skilled workers will be available, as it is possible to educate and train more and more individuals, resources will be allocated efficiently, and it will become possible to achieve economies of scale as per unit cost will decrease with an increase in size of the firm, due to more productivity. Furthermore, in the country with lower population, there are more growth and production possibilities, in a way that it becomes possible to improve the supply factors, and to use the best combination of the human, natural, technological knowledge, and capital resources. In this way, output can be increased, consumption and spending will increase, which will ultimately increase the GDP means growth of the economy. Moreover, the labor participation rate can be increased, as in lower population it becomes possible for the government to provide employment opportunity to more and more individuals, unemployment can be decreased. It becomes possible to provide better machinery as well as resources to the workers that will improve the labor productivity. Conclusion: it is claimed that the declining fertility rate is leading to the creation of several problems in the economy, such as labor productivity is decreasing, old population is increasing, and more expenditure is incurred on the health care. But this claim is not correct, because lower infertility rate will keep the level of population to a manageable extent, which will not create a burden on the resources of the country. It is evident from the accounting of growth, the productivity increases with the education, proper allocation of resources, and advancement in technology. So, it becomes possible to provide training and education to more people, more skilled workers will be available, to whom efficient technology and machinery can be provided, and better output can be achieved. Further, for the country with lower population there are many growth and production possibilities, as efficient utilization of natural and human capital, and technological knowledge becomes possible, labor participation rate can be increased, and economy can be saved from the economic diseases such as unemployment.